Hello and welcome to Ebbie on Senior Living. I'm your host, Charles Ebbie Alfree, and today I'm speaking with Monica Paulino, the owner of Silver Apple Culinary Companions, and Sylvie Ashby, owner of Cuisine de Sylvie. The three of us are going to discuss the importance of maintaining a healthy and balanced diet for seniors that is also enjoyable. Well, hello and welcome to both of you. I'm so excited to have both of you on the show today. The viewers don't know we're all personal friends, so it's really fun to have the both of you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ebbie.
So let's start off, Sylvie, tell us about Cuisine de Sylvie.
So Cuisine de Sylvie is, I'm a personal chef, and I provide intimate dinners at home, work on menus, cook, and then serve, and the best part is clean.
As everybody likes to have a clean kitchen at the end of the night. Yeah. But you're also from Normandy, France.
I am.
And you've been cooking your whole life.
Yes, gastronomy and culinary food. Cuisine is part of my background and part of who I am. And I wanted to give back and show people and share that with my guests. Yes.
And I have to say, your food is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
And Monica, tell us about Silver Apples.
So Silver Apple Culinary Companions really focuses on the day-to-day needs of older adults who are living in their home. Their needs change, their abilities change, and a lot of times food becomes something that they let lapse. They can't get out to the store to cook. They don't have the energy to stand at the stove. They don't want to cook for themselves. So it's a thing that will exacerbate medical conditions and end up having them move into a community sooner than they would like. So that's what we do.
Sure. So obviously food is essential to every person, but for seniors, you know, it helps them in preventing illnesses, gives them energy. So what are some types of foods that you think are important for seniors to get the vitamins and nutrients that they need?
Top on my list is protein.
Protein.
And it's one of the hardest things to get seniors to eat.
Yes.
You'll see, so I work in senior living. I frequently see the meals that people are eating, and so many times I'll walk in and they haven't eaten their protein. It's hard to chew, they don't have the taste for it anymore, and so it either gets left on the plate or it's chewed up and kind of discreetly put in their napkin, and they eat carbs, 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 carbs. Very few vegetables. Yeah. So protein's mine.
Interesting. And is there some way that you think that we could get seniors to eat more protein if it's not meat, but like maybe incorporate more beans or some types of vegetables?
I think if you can add little details or little steps to their diet, if they love mashed potato, which for seniors it's easy to swallow and chew, you could add just a yolk. An egg yolk, mix it, maybe add a little bit of cheese with it. So that's part of the protein intake. I know on a personal level, my mom is going through some medical issues, and I know during when I visit her, I make sure that we give her mashed potatoes, but we also incorporate egg and cheese, cream, butter.
Sure. Oh.
Butter, organic, imported, but really rich, high quality butter. And Monica, I agree with you.
And beans. You know, people forget that they think beans is gassy, they don't want to eat it, but if you prepare them correctly and you boil them, you can reduce the amount of gas that the beans, and then once you puree them nice and smooth with a little bit of roasted garlic, a little bit of olive oil, that's a nice protein base, and you just whip it up. With everybody's eating the cauliflower mashed potatoes these days.
Sure.
Well, that's great, but there's no protein, very little protein. So adding some of these other things to the mashed potatoes is a great idea.
Oh, that is a great idea. And I was looking last night at a website about nutrition and such, and it said instead of doing potato chips, have almonds. You know, and I know that could be a difficult thing for seniors to chew, but there is great almond butter. Instead of peanut butter, you could do almond butter, which I personally love.
And baking with, you know, I think one of the things that seniors lose last is their sweet tooth. You know, everyone wants the
yes.
dessert, even though they're not eating the boiled chicken.
Yeah.
So cooking with the almond butter or pureeing it to a fine paste and then using that marzipan, those kind of things that have the
Sure.
Yeah, definitely, yes, yes. Adding and also make it fun. It's important for whoever is cooking, even if it's a close family member or if it's someone that comes in, like your services, to make it fun. Maybe cut up some celery sticks. Make it really
you can
fun.
have the almond butter on the celery sticks as like
Carrots.
an hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah, exactly.
Do different things,
Exactly,
which is really cool. And we always hear, eat your greens, eat your greens. How is that for seniors? Is that?
Well, it's hard for them because a lot of the greens, they have issue with biting into it or swallowing. It's also the swallowing aspect of it is difficult.
I find access seems to be the biggest issue. So frequently when a senior is home needing services brought in, it's either a family member who's getting over, you know, they're doing the traditional meal prep. They're making a huge casserole, putting it in little dishes and bringing it over to mom to heat up through the week. And greens don't last. And when you get the meal delivery services, there's so many more options now, but traditional is Meals on Wheels. And they don't have the access to the fresh vegetables. That's the complaint that I used to see when I worked in home care. I want fresh vegetables. So, you know, access is a big issue.
Sure.
Dark leafy greens is something that we all should have several times a day. But people with heart conditions who might be on Coumadin, you know, vitamin K is very important for arterial health, but it's also it's not good if you're on an anticoagulant. So if you're on Coumadin or something, you don't want a lot of the dark leafy greens. So there's nuances for seniors that people who aren't on certain medications don't really need to pay attention to.
So it's probably important for seniors to discuss their diets with doctors, especially if they are on multiple medications, so they have a better understanding what foods would work better with what they're taking for their medications, and will provide them still getting the vitamins and nutrients they need, but that won't interfere with whatever those medications are helping them, you know, with that help cure or stabilize, you know, whatever their situation is, definitely.
I was in Skilled for years, and we they actually put together a regulation for people who are over 9 medications, that you needed to look at their medications and start reducing, because one of the problems is they go to the doctor for this pill, and then they have a side effect and they have to have this pill, and then they have to have this pill. And one of the things I find so interesting about food is it is nature's medicine.
Sure.
It's not going to cure necessarily something, but you can reduce your blood pressure just by having the right medications. You don't necessarily have to take all of the bowel medications that you would take for the narcotic constipation if you are eating the right balance of whole grains. But it's complicated.
It is.
You know, it's complicated to figure out what to eat, when to eat, why to eat it. How am I going to get it?
Sure.
Yeah, and then especially if the salt intake is important to measure. Low salt or no salt diet when you take a lot of medication is important, and you have to be aware. So like you said, a lot of seniors have family members stopping by with pre-made food, and that is an issue. And
chicken noodle soup. Oh, there's sodium in that.
You really have to watch that, definitely. And actually, a relative of mine who's a senior, he was told he has sugar diabetes, and before going on medications, they said you might be able to control it through your diet and exercise. And he focused so much on doing both, watching his diet, watching his intake, and getting more exercise, and he's been able to control it, which has been great. Now, you know, everybody's different, you know, and who knows what might happen down the line, but for right now, the food that he's eating and how he's keeping, you know, slim and really watching his weight and exercising daily has made such an impact. And I think we do sometimes forget food is, in a sense, medicine for people.
It is, yes.
And I think we live in such a fast-paced world, and it's so easy to grab a frozen meal out of a refrigerator or the freezer and throw it into the oven and just make that quickly rather than looking at, you know, how can we get some really good locally sourced foods?
And seasonal.
And yeah,
Seasonal
yes.
is very important. Right now, it's root vegetables.
Right.
You can make soup out of so many root vegetables, and then you can also control the salt intake, and make it fun. I mean, you could do turnips, parsnips, carrots, sweet potato.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. And also the relationship that you have with the food. They need to be able to embrace it, and then you can control it and make it fun. Again, it's all about making it fun and having that good relationship with what you're going to eat today. It doesn't have to be a burden.
Sure.
One of the interesting things I see with my seniors is they don't like fancy food. So one of my friends had one of those home delivery meals that gives you the ingredients and you cook it up. But it was salmon with some kind of glaze and then arugula. My older adults don't like that food. They want good home cooked casseroles and the potatoes and the meat, and so it's
something
really
that they can relate.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly,
If
and
you can
that's
relate to the food, then you're more prone to embrace it.
Yeah,
Sure.
this is the generation that came when frozen foods came out. So Bird's Eye and those, they were in the 50s and the 60s. So it was the whole post-World War II generation of making things quicker and easier, and that's how they grew up with casseroles and boxed meals. And
Sure.
we look at it like, ooh, but it's something that's always been part of their life.
Part of their lives.
Yeah.
But you can, instead of using those frozen vegetables, use fresh vegetables
exactly.
in place that have the
substitute,
vitamins.
yeah.
Or use the frozen vegetables if that's what they really love.
Sure, exactly.
But use them in a way that's a little healthier, so that you're not necessarily dousing it in margarine
Yeah.
or oleo,
Oh, yeah.
Crisco.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No. We can do things better
Yeah.
than that way.
Exactly.
Well, and you brought up soups and soups and shakes. I mean, that's a great way, especially for a senior who has issues with, swallowing or chewing foods. They could still get the vegetables and fruits and the nutrients that they need.
Exactly.
And the water,
And the
which
water,
is
hydration,
one of the
yes.
number one problems with older adults. They don't drink enough.
Yeah.
None of us drink enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you can make the soup smooth, or you can make it chunky.
Chunky, sure.
Yes. So, and you feel like you're having a full meal. So you have the broth and the vegetables, the chunky vegetables, and make it fun. Yeah, colorful. You play with the food.
Right.
It's important.
And that's something you have brought up a few times, and I love the idea that food should be fun. So what are some fun, easy recipes that seniors can do at home?
Oh,
That you can make.
Ebbie.
You make so many great meals and such, but is there anything that doesn't have a lot of ingredients that they could?
I mean, you could make a soup with only 3 ingredients. You could do with have always starch, so potato. Cut potatoes, peel them. Russet potato is the best way, or golden potato. Then a carrot, and then if you're depending on your diet. If you need to stay away from all the onions family, so leek and onion, then you can just put that aside and then add maybe celery. So there you have it. And then some fresh thyme, bay leaf, a little bit of salt, and that's it. Into a blender. And then you can blend it as smooth as you want it, chunky. And that's basically, I mean, if you're okay with onions, then you can add leek, onion, garlic, then you can make it more flavorful.
Sure.
And make enough for 3-4 days, or freeze it.
Yeah,
Right,
freeze it.
freeze
Yeah.
And then you can make 3 soups and then freeze all of it, and then you have options. Exactly.
I think some of the important things. Food is fun when there are people there who enjoy it and love it with you.
Yes.
So people like to cook for others. They don't necessarily even myself, I love to cook. I won't cook for myself.
I know.
I have no problem going through McDonald's drive-thru because it's just easier and quicker, and that's when it becomes, I just need something in my stomach. But if I am serving people, I have an elaborate menu, and I have it seasonal and locally sourced. And
Sure.
so who are the seniors cooking for?
Yeah.
One of the reasons we started the Culinary Companions was they will have somebody to cook with. So the companion will go in and help them you know, we do the shopping and get the food in, and then sit down and cook together. So there's conversation and there's memories about, oh, I used to do it this way, and why are we doing this? And that's not how I do it. Let me show you how I do it.
Sure.
So it's that interchange, and then when they're eating their meal, they had that social interaction.
Yeah, which is so important.
It is.
And let's face it, the kitchen is where people congregate.
Yeah.
You go to parties and
Yeah.
you think everybody's going to be in the living room, dining room, wherever. It was wind up in the kitchen.
Right.
And so what a great place to bring people in to work with seniors. And, you know, it's being creative and it's stimulating conversations about the past. You know, those recipes you used to make with your mom and grandmother, and they're sharing stories of a time that's gone by with these companions, which I love that. I mean, that's such a great concept to be able to bring them in. And so recipes, talking about recipes, like if people want to document the recipes, are there good ways for like people to kind of store them and keep them so seniors, you know, when they have families over and their grandchildren are there and they want to share those recipes with their grandchildren and move them down the generations? Either of you have any ideas of like a good way to?
It's a great question, Ebbie, because I know a lot of seniors probably have either a box,
The box or the book.
full, and you can't touch it.
Well, you can't read it because their handwriting is like,
exactly.
It's all
or it
handwritten,
says,
sure.
put in one part of this or one dash of this. They don't use measurements when they write their stuff down.
Yeah, and I see that with my mom, who has her cooking book from her mom and her mother-in-law, and they're the only ones that can actually read it and translate or tell you, oh, like you said, yes, oh, well, I meant a little bit more, and then
or this ingredient isn't even on there, but I always put it in anyway.
yes, exactly. So, I mean, the best way would be, I mean, now with digital age, either take a picture or scan it. You could actually, somebody could make
A video.
a video, but also a nice little cooking book. Bind it. There's plenty of websites or providers that will help you create a cookbook.
Okay.
We won't say the words, but
Sure.
there's
You
plenty
can
of
Google that.
Google that, and actually, it would be a great gift idea.
Right.
Oh, definitely.
For a special event,
Sure.
an anniversary, a birthday,
The
Mother's Day,
holidays. Yeah.
There's
Grandparents'
actually,
Day.
I don't know if it's, I think it's YouTube has a senior who actually cooks, and I think the grandchild videos, and I feel like they're maybe Puerto Rican. So it's like ethnic food, and the best part about it is the personality that comes through. So you're not just seeing the grandma make the food, you're seeing the grandma talk and yell at the granddaughter for doing something and say, no. So
Sure,
it's
that
the
interaction,
feeling,
that time of being with your family.
Exactly. But it would be great to be able to capture that,
Yes.
like in a time bubble, a time capsule, and
Definitely.
then share that with the family members. That would be actually on my trip that I'm going to go to France at the end of March. My plan is to look at my mom's cookbooks and just write and ask her questions, and then eventually ask her permission if I can also either make a copy or take it with me. I probably won't.
She's not going to
Take
put it
it,
online.
make a copy, or take pictures.
Or maybe I'll just voice. I'll just tape her voice and say, "Hey, Mom, how do you want to talk about it? What was it like when you first made the couscous or the beef bourguignon? How was it?" But it's a great way to share that with seniors.
Sure.
Because then you value them and they feel important and part of something
Definitely.
greater.
Exactly. Because they're so cherished. Those recipes. I remember my grandmother always had her box of all of her recipes, and you know, it was like this treasured item in the house.
Yes.
You know, you could probably steal a piece of her jewelry, but don't steal
Don't touch the recipes. Don't move them out of order.
Exactly.
And it's funny because sometimes they're reluctant to share a recipe. It's like, and maybe it's just a culture, but I know in France you don't share recipes. You just try to. You have to be part of the process of making
That's
the food.
interesting.
Yes.
Because in my family, or with my friends, when somebody would get married, you copy down, your family recipes, and that's like a bridal shower gift. You're passing on the traditions.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It is, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Now, I know you focus a lot on doing dinners. You go to people's homes and you create this wonderful multi-course French-based dinner. And now your program, will it be breakfast, lunch, dinner, or how would that work?
There's different options available. Some seniors prefer one meal a day. They really just are small eaters and they just want the one meal a day. So we'll come in and do the one meal a day with them and leave some, whole grain muffins or something for them to snack on. Or there's some who want 21 meals a week. So in that situation, we're actually going in a few times a week because you don't necessarily want to freeze everything.
Sure. Sure.
So it's very customizable.
That's great. And I know working at the Hickman senior living community where you and I first met, what we call supper is, or I'm sorry, dinner is actually lunch, and then supper's dinner. And lunch, or dinner as we call it, is the larger meal of the day. And that's where, they have like more of an entree, and then supper is lighter. So, I mean, is that common for seniors? What do you?
I think it's cultural. I really find it cultural. So when I work closer to Philly, dinner is the main meal.
Yeah.
But when I work closer to with people closer to the country, the main meal's at noon.
Interesting.
And then there is science that says the more you eat more earlier in the day, you eat breakfast like a king and lunch like a prince, and so your body processes the food, and then seniors have issues with GERD and other things, so too much food in their stomach, and then they're laying down, and then they have reflux.
Sure.
So it makes sense to do it.
Definitely, because I mean, I know in other countries they don't even have dinner till 10 o'clock at night.
Oh my gosh, I'd be in bed by then.
And I realized also, I noticed that with seniors in France, and even everyone, lunch is the big part of your food intake. And then you have a little snack at 4 o'clock, and then you have dinner 7:30, 7 o'clock, probably for seniors, and then later for adult with families, but lighter.
Right.
But yes, it is a lighter, and I see that when I do dinners. Some of my guests are an older generation. They eat earlier, 5 o'clock, and portions are smaller. And they always like to start with a soup. Yes.
Interesting.
Exactly, and a light dessert.
Sweets are important.
There's always room for dessert. Yes. Yeah.
And talking about desserts, are there ways for seniors who do have sugar diabetes or other issues where they can't have so much of that sugar intake, ways to do desserts that make them just as tasty but maybe without as much sugar?
So it's really interesting. I watch people come in and they have diabetes and they take their insulin and then they go down and they eat big bowls of sugar-free ice cream. Well, there's sugar alcohols in that, and so the best thing is to pair your carbohydrates, your simple carbohydrates, with a protein, because that'll slow down the digestion process. It'll slow down your body's metabolization of the carbohydrate. So instead of your sugar levels going like this, which is the problem, they kind of burn a little more steady. So cheesecake with fresh fruit. That's my protein, simple carbs, and then fruit.
Yeah.
Well,
I know for me, I usually make a crème caramel, which is an upside down flan, but you have all the protein, the cream, the eggs, and you have the caramel, which is, and it's homemade, so it's not saturated with high fructose syrup.
Sure.
Right.
And they just love it, and it's easy to swallow, and it's that little sweet treat that you have after dinner.
And it's a little bit.
And it's a little bit,
And real sugar really satisfies the craving instead of all the fake additives.
Exactly.
Sure. And when you're making it, you can control how much sugar you're putting in it and the portion size and everything.
Yes.
All this talk about food is making me so hungry. I didn't have breakfast yet today. This has been such an amazing time. Any final thoughts before we start closing the show about seniors and food and nutrition and fun of it?
Oh, just that it's so interesting and so complicated, but so very important for keeping people healthy and involved in life and engaged.
Sure.
Yeah, and I feel the same way with you. What you say, Monica, is that it's so important to make it fun and have that relationship with food and make it your priority, and not being afraid. And it's okay if one day you don't like something and then the next day you try something else.
Sure.
If it becomes a burden, then that's when it needs to be addressed. But fresh, seasonal, homemade, portion control. And get rid of all processed food. I think those are my
final thoughts. Well, great. And as we close, let's start with you, Sylvie.
Yes.
If our viewers want to get in contact with you or learn more about your services, how can they find out more about you?
They can just go on my website, cuisinedesylvie.com, click on that little email icon, and my phone number is also on my website. Give me a call. I'll be happy to provide a at-home dinner for intimate for up to 6-8 people is the best. So if they want to have family over, they don't want to cook, but they want to make that a special event, special moment. I'll be happy to do that. Yes.
And they will not be sorry because it is so delicious. And Monica, if people want to learn more about Silver Apple, how can they?
We are at Silver Apple Culinary. We have .com for the website, and we're on Facebook as well. I think the biggest thing for us is we actually send out people who are trained with seniors to do the assessment. So we'll come and meet with you for just a complimentary discussion about what your needs are, and then go from there.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for being here today. This was such a great, fun, and interesting conversation, and so important. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us today. We'll see you again next month.